Some stories stay with us, haunting our dreams and twisting our perceptions of what's real. They send chills down our spine, lingering far longer than they have any right to. In the world of creepypastas, two names stand out: Jeff the Killer and Smile Dog. One has faded into near obscurity, and the other has remained a staple in the horror community. But why is that? What made Smile Dog succeed where Jeff the Killer has faltered? Today, I'm going deep into the analysis of both, exploring strengths and weaknesses, and uncovering why one failed to resonate, and why the other still gives us chills. To understand why Jeff the Killer failed to have the same impact as Smile Dog, we first need to take a look at the culture that birthed these stories. Creepypasta started as a place for amateur writers to showcase their horror stories, shared anonymously across forums like 4chan, Reddit, and the like. What made these stories unique was the ability to blend the ordinary with the horrific, creating narratives that felt real enough to be terrifying. It wasn't just about jump scares or gore. No, it was about the eerie, unsettling feeling of reality being upturned. Jeff the Killer emerged during this early era of creepypasta, quickly gaining traction because of its shocking, over-the-top nature. It was dark, disturbing, and edgy, which at the time made it stand out in an otherwise relatively tame environment. The story's grotesque imagery and violent themes attached readers looking for something raw and intense, but over time something became clear. Jeff the Killer wasn't all that it seemed to be. Now let's talk about why Jeff the Killer has largely fallen out of its favor. When we break down the elements of the story, there are several glaring issues that make it difficult to take it seriously, in retrospect. First, let's address the plot itself. The narrative feels rushed, almost haphazard, without any real depth. Jeff, a random kid who becomes a killer due to a traumatic event, is a premise we've seen 1,000 times before. The character motivations are shallow and underdeveloped. There's no real exploration of Jeff's descent into madness. He just becomes a killer one day. This lack of a compelling backstory or character development leaves us with nothing to invest in emotionally. It's all just surface level shock value, but with no substance. Jeff the Killer quickly became a symbol of edgy horror. It's filled with violent descriptions, random murder sprees, and over-the-top moments of gore. But there's a difference between horror that's effectively unsettling and horror that's simply trying too hard to be shocking. The violence feels gratuitous, almost childish in its execution. Then there's the dialogue. When Jeff speaks, it feels forced and awkward. Lines like "go to sleep" are repeated to the point of being laughable, lacking any real menace. The way Jeff communicates is disconnected from the intended horror. It comes off as a poorly written villain, rather than a true terrifying force. The story's brevity doesn't help either. At just a few pages long, it doesn't give the reader any time to truly get invested in the plot or characters. There's no room for atmospheric tension to build, and the story leaves too many questions unanswered, making it feel like a half-baked attempt at a horror narrative. Another issue is the lack of realism. Jeff the Killer lacks the suspension of disbelief that makes creepypasta work. The idea of a mentally disturbed individual becoming a grotesque murderer in such a short time span just doesn't feel plausible. Unlike other successful creepypasta stories, it doesn't feel grounded in a way that makes you question its authenticity. Now let's shift our focus to the story that succeeded where Jeff the Killer stumbled. Smile Dog, written by author unknown, remains a creepypasta classic. one that continues to haunt the internet years after its publication. But what makes it so effective and why has it endured? First, the story itself is well written and immersive. It's not just a collection of violent scenes or shocking moments. The atmosphere is built up slowly, with tension gradually rising as the protagonist delves deeper into the mystery of the cursed image. Unlike Jeff the Killer, which relies on the shock factor, Smile Dog creates a sense of unease, keeping readers on edge throughout. The cursed image at the center of Smile Dog, the dog with a chilling, unnerving smile, was believable for its time. In the early days of Creepypasta, when digital art and photo manipulation were not as common, it was easy to imagine that such an image could exist in the real world. The image was disturbing, almost too real, which added to the horror. This tangible feeling made the story feel like a real warning, a piece of viral horror that could spread with the click of a button. Jeff the Killer, on the other hand, never had that element of realism, making it harder for readers to buy into the mythos. What makes Smile Dog so terrifying is its sense of realism. The idea that you could receive an email with an innocuous-looking attachment that turns out to be a cursed image is terrifying. It's believable. It taps into our fear of the unknown and the idea that our actions in the digital age can have consequences beyond our control. In contrast to Jeff's cringy lines, the dialogue in Smile Dog feels natural and grounded. There's no forced catchphrases or edgy one-liners, just a simple recounting of events told from the perspective of someone who is genuinely terrified. This helps the reader connect with the protagonist and feel the tension building up. The final aspect of Smile Dog that gives it staying power is its memorable nature. The cursed image, the haunting email, the sinister smile, all of these elements combine to create a story that sticks with you long after you've finished reading. It's a classic example of how the creepypasta genre can be more than just a quick scare. It can be a narrative that lingers in your mind, making you question whether the story is really just fiction. One final point where Smile Dog triumphs over Jeff the Killer is in its ending and pacing. Smile Dog ends on a chilling note, leaving the reader with a sense of unease and finality. There's no neat closure, and it allows the tension to simmer long after the story ends. With Jeff the Killer, however, the ending feels anticlimactic. There's no real resolution, no lingering sense of dread, just a villain with no clear motivation. In conclusion, while both Jeff the Killer and Smile Dog are integral parts of creepypasta history, it's clear why Smile Dog holds up better over time. Its sense of realism, well-crafted atmosphere, believable details, and memorable visuals set it apart from Jeff the Killer, which falters due to its over-the-top edge, lack of depth, and unrealistic premise. At the end of the day, horror works best when it feels grounded in reality. When it taps into something real and tangible, Smile Dog succeeded because it made you question whether the story could actually happen to you. Jeff the Killer, however, never quite made that leap. Thank you for watching, and be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with my analysis? What do you think about Jeff the Killer and Smile Dog? Let me know what you think, and remember to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of horror and creepypasta.